it yourself, Terrence and Jose, look at your own lives. Each person that's here, the viewers, have about 300,000 items within their own personal cloud. That number compares to 1996 when there were only 257,000 entire websites on the World Wide Web. Now think about that. Your own world is bigger than the entire web in 1996. Now, imagine that number doubles every year. Think about all your own repositories. You've got Dropbox, Box, Google Drive, Slack, WhatsApp, Telegram, Viber, Facebook Messengers, LinkedIn. I mean, when you add it up, you can have over 20 data sources. Then how many email addresses do you have? So the average person says, oh, well, I only got 3. But in reality, you've got Yahoo, you've got Hotmail, you've got all kinds of addresses and maybe numerous Gmail addresses that you don't use anymore. You've outgrown them. So we are in this state of infobesity. Now, how in the world, how many times in your own personal world have you said, I know that file exists, but I can't find it? Why? You've either forgotten the keywords or location. You don't know if you got it in Dropbox. You don't know if it's in Gmail. You don't know where it is or which Gmail accounts. So we are in a state where we cannot find information. We are inundated with information. Now add the Internet of Things. In 5 years, the average person will have 10 million items in their personal cloud, just 5. How in the world are we going to be able to find things? I believe we're in this state of infobesity that we either figure it out, the people that can figure it out, that have these incredible personal cloud searches, they will be the ones that know. The ones that don't have that capability will be the don't know. There'll be really 2 classes of society. Who knows how to deal with data? Now, one of the answers is smart assistants, actually intelligent, unsupervised assistants that can help us with our lives to make sense of all the data that's around us. Because it's coming at us. Think about it, your phone. How many hours a day do you hold your phone in your hand today? Literally, right?
Yeah, for me, 3 hours, 5 hours, it's a common number these days.
I mean, when you get up in the morning, what do? You check your phone. When you go to bed at night, you take a shower, you do all your stuff, you check your phone. The phone is now an extension of you. They talk about singularity. We're now getting the state, but now we've got data. So we've got AI is electricity, data is the fuel, and 5G, 6G, they're the turbocharger. Imagine, think about it. Once 5G and 6G are readily accepted, how much more data is going to be coming at us all the time?
That's a good question, actually. And that's, I think, what lots of businesses and lots of people are about to answer and change. Jose, what about you? What do you think about the industry and why it's growing at this pace?
I think Gary did an exceptional introduction on the numbers and what it is. So I certainly underwrite everything he says. I want to look at it more from the practical side, just to add on to what Gary said. Most working class people today, it depends on the function that you have, but those 3.5 hours probably are more close to like 9 or 10. And the reason is that you are on your smartphone. And the reason is that it's not only your working environment, it's also your personal life that runs on your smartphone. People talk to each other much more frequently than they did in the past, almost instantly, even if it's with a messaging. And many times I see it around me, it's several times a day. So that device, basically controls more or less your life, or you control your life with the device, right? That's what it is. I think the day that you lose your smartphone or it breaks down, you probably get a nervous break because suddenly you feel that, there you have so much time.
You lost a limb.
There's nothing, what I'm going to do now, right? Because everything is so that's the reality. Let me put it like this. IBM came with the first hardware storage. Okay, I think it was, I don't know the exact date anymore, but I think it's like 30 years ago, more or less. And it was a 20 megabytes.
It was, so magnetic core memory, 1954, I actually did work with HP, and I remember having a class about it, right? So it was the guy's name, An Wang, actually, was the creator. He formed a company called Wang Labs after that.
That's it. And it was as big as a 20 feet container, right? It almost didn't fit into a freight airplane. So if we look back and we look today, right, and we went from hard drives, floppy drives, well, initially the strip, right, the perforated strip. And today we are basically on flash memory, more or less. Okay, so, the traditional hard drives, they are gone. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what will be the next trend, but definitely something new and more powerful. And 20 megabytes, you laugh about it today. That's even in a pen drive, you can have easily like 128 gigabytes or more. That's not abnormal. So that all is possible because the technology moves on. But not only that, with the storage comes the processing power. It goes more or less hand in hand. But the processing power that is duplicating constantly, okay, also needs more storage because you have more and more data. So that more data, well, everything has to do with the storage power that you have, the data that you're going to store, and the processing power. Now, imagine that suddenly, because we are on the edge of that, suddenly we get these quantum computers rolling out, right? And how much data do you need to have to be able to store that data?
Right.
Huge, right? So I strongly believe that in the next 10 years, because quantum computing is for military, it's or for a long time already in place. We just don't know it. But in the next 10 years, we will see a huge moving forward in that area. This morning I woke up and it's very funny. I want to share this with you, Gary. So this morning when I woke up, the first thing I was thinking, because I think a lot in my sleep. I don't know why it happens, but it just happened. And the first thing was like, oh God, we are data beings. That was the first thing that came in my mind when I woke up. I said, wow, never thought about it like that. But in essence, a human is a data storage and processor full time. We never stop.
Yeah.
Even when we sleep, we
Yeah.
are processing and storing data. It's incredible, right? But the issue is that our limits that we have today, which computers don't have, and that's why we are going into this AI and more computer issue, is that our processing power has a limit. That's the issue. It is not able to duplicate itself the way we need it. And the solution for that, right, is in essence the hardware and all the software that we have behind it. And that's where you need to look at it. But Gary wanted to say something. I saw
No, I mean, the thing is, it's really a couple of things. So I'm a psychologist too. And one of the things you look at these gateways. So, for instance, Nikola Tesla, at 6 years old, had an epileptic seizure. And after that time, he could remember everything. I don't know if you know that. He actually had it's called eidetic imagery, a photographic memory. So every book, everything. And once we figure out those gateways in the brain to be able to store everything, I mean, it's happened to a few people in different circumstances where and idiot savants, right, have the same capability. So the other side is when we talk about storage, I mean, the latest storage. So if you look at quantum, it's superposition and the storage on photon particles. So being able to store information on photons is really, where we are. And of course, photons are low light. So I'm really, it is about that. When you look at the brain structures, we do approximately 60,000 complex transactions per day. And it's interesting. So both for short-term and long-term memory, how we can actually increase the storage capacity. A lot of the reasons we can't store a lot in our brain is because the fatty substances of the brain called myelin sheaths reduce over time. And so the conductivity of the neuron goes down. And so the storage capacity is not, you lose it, Alzheimer's, those kind of things. So it's interesting. You're right on target about it. And as we start moving into these new ways of quantum computing, it's going to change everything. Because remember, quantum computer can be 100 million times faster because of retrieving the data than a conventional computer. You can compute stuff would take 10,000 years and imagine in minutes.
I think
Yeah.
I think you both of you put it in a way that is definitely correct. And what we see now, it's almost mandatory for companies and startups to kind of come up and start collecting data. But I think when we look at analytics and what they're doing with data itself, do you think that they are using it efficiently? I mean, what's your thoughts on this? Gary, perhaps you can take this one as well.
Are we using data efficiently? Is that your question?
Yeah, and for analytics purposes, or are we just having it there just because we can?
I mean,
What's
the
your take?
situation is,
Yeah.
you know, like I just said, we can't even do it in our own personal cloud. I mean, how many times have you said, do you remember, I don't remember getting that email. I don't remember the message. So we are highly inefficient ourselves. And it's until we have intelligent assistants. We actually invented one. We have 19 patents in search. So my company I co-founded. And one of the things is, you know, how do we look at our own world and to be able to search information? I mean, today, did you get my email? I don't remember seeing it. You have no clue. Do you remember the PowerPoint presentation? When did you send it? Right?
Yeah, we've heard a few shares of that.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you send me another email? Because
Yeah.
guess what? It's like, I mean, look at it. So you've got, you know, these linear data information, one-sided, and you're trying to go through hundreds of emails to figure, did I get it? And then if it's in an email thread, how can you find it? You know, you search, because if you try to search today, think about it. You got to put the exact word in. How in the world can you find something if you don't remember the exact spelling of a presentation or when it came? And that's just an email. What happens if it's in Slack, right? So we need to develop more highly efficient, unsupervised AI, intelligent, not smart assistants that can help us with data. Corporations need the same thing because they got the same challenge. They can't find stuff. It's really hard. And now it's 62% growth per year in data worldwide and double for each one of us individually. We can't find things. And think about it, with the IoT, right? You're going to have everything, sensors everywhere. How might, you know, your refrigerator is going to be saying, listen, the meat's warming up a little bit too much, or you're out of meat, you're out of vegetables, you need to buy some more carrots. And it sends a message to your phone. Your house is going to say the roof is leaking. Let me call a plumber. And then soon it'll start doing it on its own. It'll start doing all those things. You're just going to be there. It's going to say, you need to go to work at 8 o'clock if you have to go. A self-driving car will pick you up, take you into the office, but then I'm not sure how much you're going to have to do, because your assistant, that's you, essentially, it's going to clone your personality, will be doing those things, right? It's interesting.
Yeah,
So,
I kind of, you're right. You're right to kind of point that out. I think we are in a mess these days, and the abundance of data is making it worse unless we can kind of hone in and really make use of it. But I mean, Jose, from your point of view itself, I mean, you deal with lots of businesses as well. Are the businesses or the people that you're speaking to, are they recognizing the value of the technology behind it and how it's collected? And are they utilizing it as much, you think?
They are, but once more, I look at things more from a practical side, right? And one of the things that I stopped doing for a long time, for many, many years, is memorizing things. That's one of the things. And once you stop with that, right, your brain is free to process a lot of stuff. Okay, so picking up where Gary left it, I would say the following. Our whole education system, right, is completely, I don't say they are wrong, but it's completely outdated. That's one point. And the way we handle businesses today, right, it's going to have a big moving forward. What we are doing at BizMoney, I think that's a real maker, is that we are transforming those micro self-employed business owners into Fortune 500 CEOs, right? Because they spend like 75, 80% of their time just executing. It has nothing to do with business building itself or just making the right decisions. And if you look at a company structure today, or even a political or governmental structure, right? They're all based on that one guy is on the top, which makes the decisions, and then you have a huge amount, right, in the bottom that is executing the whole time. Now, we picked up that example, and what we have done is we have said, you know what would happen if we were to replace all those guys below just with computer power, right?
Scary.
Scary, right? But it's interesting also. So
Yeah.
what we have done is we have said, okay, so if we can replace them with computer power, just basic, practical things, right? Because you're not talking about complexities. And if you do that and you make it fully automatic, more or less, then you free a huge amount of time, and you get data in real-time data in a very, very short time frame that you make real-time on-spot decisions. And that's where our life is going to. The companies today, and that's giving the answer to your question, right? In the past, it's not a long time ago. I can tell you that, let me put it like this: 5 years ago, I can tell you that 99% of all the companies in the world, they would make decisions based on past data. Okay,
Yeah.
Either if it's accounting, where accounting is always behind, it's one of the biggest problems we have, or if it is analyzing factual things that happen, right? It's always looking back. And what we are doing is, don't look back, just look today. The back is the past, right? That's your storage, your knowledge. But what you need is, you need to be on spot. And if you do that, and you can replace that power that I was telling you, that manpower, with computer power, then suddenly some magic happens that your company can make real-time decisions in a very short time frame. And you don't need to spend all the time, including your staff, on just executing things. So the way I see the future companies is like, instead of having people executing things, we have people making constantly the right decisions between A or B. And why do we need to do that? Because we don't want to be dependable, okay, on the decision making on computers. If we want to have computers taking over from us, then give them the decision making. Okay. If you don't want computers to take over from you, then what you need to do is you keep the decisions, right? Which is quite an easy task. They will give you the data, and you make the decisions based on that. And that's the way I look at it. But there is one other thing that I would like to address, which has to do with our conversation, in which you pointed out, and Gary as well. It's like, how do we address this data? Because one thing is the processing power, which is the hardware. The other thing is the storage, which is our hard drives. And the other thing is how we store it, right? The way you store it is also to do with the way you're going to be able to get to that data afterwards. Now, also in that area, right, we have been improving quite a lot, maybe not as much as we would like to, but look at the first databases that we had, right? And then we came up eventually with decentralized databases, and now we are spreading it out, completely over different sizes of the world in cloud computing, etc. So the way we store the data or categorize it, right, and the way we handle it, okay, has a huge impact. I can tell you that I had one project in the past, right, and the big companies do that as well. It's not a secret, but a lot of people probably don't know it. So one of the big companies like Google, and Amazon, and they set up their own hardware because they want to be more efficient, right? So that hardware in those data centers, for them, it's not traditional hardware that you go to a store and you just buy it. What they do is they change. Now, one of the things we did is that we found out that if we would make micro databases, okay, fully decentralized. When I say micro, it's really very tiny, right? Then suddenly something happens is that you don't need to have so big sectors because data is stored in a sector, right? Correct. So if you shorten those sectors because those sectors have a certain space, then suddenly the whole process can be like doubled or tripled, right? It can even be faster. So the shorter the sectors are, the faster it can read, the faster it can process. Okay. So I would like to see some magic happen in the way we categorize and store, because I know that if we do that and you are able to improve that, then the artificial intelligence that is going to pick up the data based on our commands will also work in a different fashion and just pick it up much faster. Right? So when I write something on Google search, right, I never write a few keywords or I just write a whole sentence. Like for example, search this, or I want to know this. And normally the results come quite nice. So they are working on that for sure.
Yeah, you're right. And then how it comes back to you also plays a big part on how we look at things.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, LATOKEN itself, we are a crypto exchange and we deal with lots of, let's say, blockchain-based companies. Do you see an alliance of the use of the blockchain technology to kind of reduce costs in data in that manner? Because you mentioned about storage and how it's stored. Would it make sense? And do companies, do they know, or are they riding on it? Could you comment on that?
Yes, I think you touched one point that I know quite some or have quite some knowledge on. So the issue is like this. Today, right? Maybe I'm going to be killed here, but that's the way I look at it. Blockchain definitely is not the most efficient storage. It has a lot of pluses in different areas, but databases still are much faster in reading and writing than any blockchain, which is available on the market. That's a fact, right? And the guys who have the highest speed in processing are Visa, and MasterCard. They have very efficient systems in place. So this is the problem. So blockchain as a efficiency machine for storage, reading and writing is not good. Okay. Also, the whole system set up, like the consensus and everything, doesn't make it easy to process fast. But it has some other advantages. I look at blockchain like a notary. If you want to store something permanently that cannot be changed, right, then suddenly blockchain is the ideal system because you store it. It is basically integrated with previous data. You get this string, and then this is not changeable. And okay, that's fine. Blockchain for me is the ideal accounting system. Now, the accounting system was developed by a priest quite a long time ago. And for me, it's the most efficient system, financial system that we ever have seen on Earth so far. But
Right.
If you look at the accounting system itself, and I'm just telling you that I was an accountant, so I know a lot of stuff about that. You first thing you learn is that those records you cannot mix with them, you cannot change, right? You can make addendums, corrections, but you cannot change a record, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So blockchain, more or less, is the ideal accounting system. So if you take processing power, right, for permanent storage, okay, like a notary, or you take it for accounting, I think it's fantastic. It's really a maker. I don't look at it for non-permanent storage. Definitely or for retrieving data. I don't see it. It's a fast option, at least today. So it needs to improve quite a lot. But for token exchange, right, and the way the tokens work and the whole concept, yes, it's a very good system. I think the guy who invented Bitcoin, more or less, was a genius because if you look at how he thought about things, just thinking about how it works, not looking at what the Bitcoin is, right, but how it works, and you need to have so much knowledge of different areas, not only technology-wise, but also about economy and about finance and about how this would be functional, working, decentralized, and on every computer, etc., that I have a hard time, okay, to accept that it was just one brain behind it, right? So and blockchain is part of that whole concept. So it's quite interesting.
Well, we'll leave that a mystery then. But how about yourself, Gary? Do you share the same sentiments?
I mean, the situation is I'm looking beyond blockchain, right? And we look at, I'm looking at quantum computing and writing a lot about it right now. And once quantum computers come in, which they started, everything changes. So the blockchain in and of itself isn't so interesting, but blockchain and artificial intelligence to be able to deal with things like encryption changes things. So,
Mm,
but I'm looking at beyond blockchain. I mean, it's for me, it's what is it, Jose? It's a triple ledger, right? So it's the not double ledger with blockchain. It's a triple ledger.
The
Yeah.
triple ledger, yeah.
If we can
yeah.
keep it like accounting, it's now a triple ledger system. So now I'm looking at where we're going to be in the future, and I'm really interested in quantum computers and the impact because that's going to change. That's going to change society. It's going to change everything, right?
Mm,
I'm not sure blockchains are going to be even valid anymore. I'm not sure that cybersecurity is going to be valid. You're going to literally have, two quantum computers facing off against each other, predicting where the other one's going to go, and I don't. It's smaller than a millisecond, and and reacting, et cetera. So it's quite interesting. In the interim, it's kind of like, we're kind of riding horses, and there's jets out there, and so now how do we go from horses to jets mentally? We've got we've got challenges, we've got security issues, we've got decentralizations, we've got a lot of things happening at once. Bitcoin's what, at $20,000 or so today, 19,000 and change today.
mm,
So there's definitely some forces taking place. Our society is dramatically changing, um, but blockchain and artificial intelligence start making it much more easy. The speed is going to be critically important. The
right.
efficacy of the system, right? The ability to understand encryption. So you need to
Mm,
marry. It's really, we're very quickly, we talk about integration, we're very quickly integrating these technologies together. So the blockchain, the artificial intelligence, these new, the speed, the amount
mm,
of data around us, it's all
mm,
come together once, and the Internet of Things took an entirely new angle with what we need to be able to do to secure things and have, trust. What does blockchain give us? Blockchain gives us trust, right?
mm,
So for medical records, those kind of things, of course, it's needed, but it's got to be an integrated approach. And I think today that's where we need to head. We need to look at how we take these technologies and integrate them together. And I mean, that's really what we're doing, right?
yeah.
That I'm interested in. I'm
Yeah.
interested in investing in those kind of companies that are looking at the next level. Today's not that interesting for me. It's where the future is going to be, so we can guide this and dramatically increase the efficiency. And I'm concerned
Mm,
about this data I talked about. I'm telling
mm,
you, I've talked to CEOs of some of the largest companies in the world. I've had very famous folks. I've had this exact discussion. I said, how do you take care of your corporate email, right? He said, oh, I got this is the top 50 company. I have a very simple explanation. I said, what do you mean? He said, I just delete it. I said, what do you mean you delete it? He said, well, if it's older than 2 years old, why do I need it?
yeah.
I said, okay. I said, well, what do you do? And he said, well, let me tell you. So 2 years ago, I got rid of email older than 2 years old. A year ago, I got rid of older email that was older than a year old. He said, and 6 months ago, this is literally a direct conversation, email that was older than 6 months. And I said, what if there's something important, like an important, document or something? He said, you know something? If it's that important, they'll send it to me again.
It makes sense.
I'm like, this is crazy, right? I've talked to
Yeah.
folks from top tier universities, MIT.
Mm,
They graduated from MIT, same problem. It's a very concerning. We don't think about it, right? It's
mm,
really, really. So we talk about blockchain, we talked about cryptocurrencies, but when we go back at it, we need to figure out how to take care of our own mess, right? Our own personal cloud mess. And then corporately, we have the same information. They're inundated. Corporation can get so much data today, it's incredible. But how do they take that data using intelligent assistants to make sense of it? That's really where the beauty of the system. That's when we start to tweak it. That's the grease for the system, the oil to keep it moving.
I agree. And that's why we have the panel to kind of take care of this as well.
That's right.
I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. I think lots of businesses are kind of looking forward to kind of hearing from you as well. Let's kind of lean into that a little. Let's talk about investment pivots and funds. And more importantly, why are VCs looking at this digital assets and businesses? I mean, Jose, perhaps you can kind of take this one first.
Yeah. Before I go into that, I just wanted to say something that Gary touched. And look, it also can make some sense not to have it and just delete it, because let me put it like this: after 3 years, the speed velocity that everything goes right today with technology, after 3 years, everything is obsolete. So I learned that everything which is older than 5 years, right? It's obsolete. It's replaced by something new. Now, Gary is right that for important contracts, definitely you should not get rid of it. But technology-wise, if you look at a car 5 years ago and look at a car today, it's mind-boggling. Yeah, impressive. Okay, going back to your question. So. I think Gary said something which I underwrite as well. It's like this. I'm on the lookout for the next generation digital currency, which is different from what we have today. Definitely looking on the lookout for maybe blockchain type 2. Much more efficient than it is the one we have today. And definitely not to apply it as a flash storage, but more as a permanent storage. Looking at a lot of solutions that really can make AI, which is still at the beginning, but already looking at, let's say, AI level 2, okay, more diverged into new AI types. But not only that, also on machine learning and also on these neural networks, right? Either permanent or decentralized neural networks. It's a lot of tech, but that's what makes things happen today. The practical outcome of that is a different story. So if you take that and you know how to apply it to some practical outcome, right? And my practical outcome is like, I have this goal in my life that I want to bring business inclusion to everybody. No matter your background, what kind of color you have, or what religion, or even the capacity of your brain set. I want to bring business inclusion to everybody, that everybody has a fair chance to kick off a business and in a very fast pace, which is not the case today, like 6 months, become a professional business builder. That's where you want to go to. It's not acceptable anymore that in 2020, right, that we have a die out of minimum of 75% of all these entrepreneurs that give it a try immediately in the first year, and that only 0.5% survives after 5 years. It's not acceptable anymore that they need to go undergo a very hard time to fall down and stand up, etc. Why don't we have an environment, right, that can teach them that in a very short time frame, like 6 months? Why do companies, only get to break-even point after 2 years, right? So we should be able to get this done much faster, have a proof of concept much faster, have an ability to generate free cash flows much faster, because that's where it becomes sustainable. So I'm focused on everything that can make that happen. Okay, any technology that we can embed into BizMoney itself, we're on the lookout for that. And approach me for that, and I'm always open to listen to it.
Great, thank you for that. Gary, how about yourself?
Well, I mean, I wanted to mention one thing, Terrence. This is really interesting from my standpoint. You talked about digital assets, and I talk about personal digital assets. And this is interesting. So think about it on your side. I mean, just think about the pictures that you take on your phone and then never print. And so your own history disappears, right? And it happens gradually over time. Used to be that people would take pictures and they would print them and you would keep those and they would become a family album. But your own history of what you've done in this planet disappears, right? Because we don't have any way today of encapsulating your own history. So once we pass, it's gone, right? For the most part. So we've got to take, the essence of who we are and the memories. And, we've got to understand that we also have a digital trail. And it's the ability to be able to search pictures, right? So if I got my own pictures and to be able to store those pictures in some way, shape, or form, because we all take a lot of them. People take a lot of selfies, but they disappear, right? Your stuff on Facebook, you upload it, and then you get a new phone, you lose it, et cetera. But our history is disappearing. So it's interesting, it used to be that it didn't disappear. And we've got to look at ourselves and look at, the path that we want to take within this cloud. So, we have Gmail. When we have pictures, then we don't use a Gmail. We had Hotmail. If you're like me, I had a Hotmail account. I don't use Hotmail account. I don't even know if they exist anymore because I don't have any, I know I had it, right? Or AOL, I still have, but when's the last time? If you send somebody an email with AOL, they think you're a dinosaur,
It's going to spam right away.
You understand? Exactly, because you think it's some bullshit. But those are also challenges because we have all these email accounts that, we didn't secure in the right kind of ways. I do now, right?
Right.
But we got to be careful. I mean, I actually had my identity stolen because somebody got into my AOL account and got into my taxes and pulled them out. I've taken all that stuff out and secured it. But, we didn't think about it back when AOL, I don't even remember when I my account, in the late 90s, something like that probably. And everybody was using it. So, but yeah, our history's getting erased. We got to look at, again, in our own personal cloud, how do we manage ourselves? We talk about managing the world, but first of all, we got to start with ourselves, look ourselves in the mirror and say, how am I going to better take care of my own data so I have it when I need it?
Right. That makes sense, actually. You're right there, Gary. And again, just looking at the time itself, gentlemen, again, I think we're running out of time here. So for those viewing and watching from wherever you are, again, if you're going live on YouTube at the moment, just remember, click and subscribe so you'll get the latest updates on all the new videos that come out. And if you are on the main page, the schedule is there. Take a look. See what's piquing your interest, and do approach all the VCs out there, and even us in LATOKEN itself. We can connect the dots, we can become the bridge. So before we go, again, I think it's a good way to kind of summarize by giving out some advice. I say that's the best way to kind of end the shows. Lots of businesses are looking at you and seeking your advice. Jose, what would you tell them? A quick round of advice for all the up and coming startups.
Well, I think the biggest advice that I can give, because that's something that I see every day, is that when you are on the lookout for an investor, first figure out if he is the right match for you, if you fit in his investment criteria to start with. Because otherwise you're losing your time and you're making this investor losing his time as well. So that would be point number one. And you become much more efficient if you do the track record of this investor's history. Where does he like to invest in? What does he understand? Because typically investors, they like to stay more or less in their comfort zone in things that they have experience with, that they understand. Okay? So that's point number one. And the second point is investors can bring much more to the table than cash.
Right.
Okay, and I think that is overlooked in most of the cases, that investors can bring other investors on board because they normally have a network. They can bring a huge amount of advice and knowledge to the table that you probably might not have. And if that comes with a price, then I say, look at the investor not only from a cash perspective, also look at him, what he can bring to the table. And that's sometimes it's much more important than the cash perspective. Cash helps, doesn't solve, right? That's the issue. and look at the investor like an extension of your own company. And that's the way I like to look at investors. I typically don't short the cash. I love the cash, when I go out. And I think this is also important, that people need to understand that investors also go out to raise cash to be able to have those funds and invest in you. They just are able to manage it in a different way that you are not, because you don't have the expertise. But don't think that investors only invest their cash. In the big majority of the cases, they went out to raise funds, right? To create this fund,
Right.
and then to invest in a pool and spread out the risk. Okay? So this is my advice. Check out the tracking history of the investor. Figure out if he is a good match. Okay, and also figure out what can he bring to the table, which is much more valuable than the cash itself. So that would be my advice.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you for that. I think lots of us will appreciate that advice as well. Gary, how about yourself?
Well, so as investors, I would look at companies that are moving into semi-supervised and unsupervised AI to be able to help us solve some of these problems. If as an investor, I'd be looking at companies that are starting to work on quantum computer, different types of technology surrounding quantum computers, and they are around, they're coming out of universities primarily. I would look at that. I mean, we are inundated with information. Being able to make sense of that information and make it useful for every person and every corporation is going to be critically important. So these not smart, what I say, intelligent assistants, use an unsupervised AI that know what you like, what you do, and can help you decipher all the data coming at you at any one point in time. And it's happening today. I mean, think about self-driving cars, right? I mean, so the journey's already started, but it's got a long way to go. And this personal cloud, being able to make sense of the data within each and every one of our personal clouds, is going to be the people that crack that are going to win. This is like, I mean, think about it. Google was to take all the information for websites and to be able to make sense of it. Now we need to be able to do the same thing with on our own personal cloud. We don't have those kind of cross-functional searches, cross-platform searches. Those kind of companies are going to win. So it's very interesting for me. And, people can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn, Twitter. You can send me an email, Gary@GSDBS. We curate companies, AI companies primarily, to go global. We've created 2 unicorns and we're looking to create some more. So thank you, Terrence.
Excellent. And with that, we'll end the show for this round. Again, do keep tuned and do look at our schedules, because if you love to hear more from our investors and from us here in LATOKEN, you can join us and come back again. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for your insights and thoughts today and your time as well. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.